Okay, cool. Well, haven't recorded in a week, so kind of missed it. Not really, actually.
Yeah, we were in Tahoe. It was so fun.
Tahoe was fun.
Tahoe was a lot. We have many stories.
Yeah, we were basically in an Airbnb with 27 people, so you can imagine how that went.
Honestly, it went pretty well. Like, there was, not a lot of drama until the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the drama was in one night.
And it wasn't in Tahoe.
And nobody remembers, so that's also good.
I remember.
I was there, yeah.
Oh, well, I was sober, so.
The three of us remember.
Should we talk about some of these stories?
Which one do you want to talk about?
The shit stain.
I feel like we shouldn't talk about that.
Well, welcome back to Get the Check. I'm Maya.
I'm Annika.
I'm Priya.
And today we have a fun lineup for you. So we have two stories. The first story is about Zohran Mamdani winning the New York Democratic primary election for mayor. And we're going to go into his campaign, what was unique about it, and also his platform. And then next, we're going to be talking about Tesla robotaxis because they recently launched robotaxis in Austin last week, which is a very small launch, only a fleet of 10 to 20 Model Ys. And we're going to be going into what went into this launch and the future of Tesla.
So starting with Zohran, he's a Democratic socialist and a member of the New York State Assembly right now, representing District 36. And we have to start with just everyone's reaction to him winning. Like, Kalshi broke the news, which I thought was cool. Like,
yeah.
They've always been saying, like, we're the new media. And I feel like each, like, relevant election's kind of proving that.
And you put money behind it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Wait, I don't really want to talk about it because I bet on Cuomo.
You bet on
Cuomo. I thought he was going to win.
Like,
Am I going to get canceled for that? I mean,
No,
I didn't want
no,
Cuomo to
no.
win. I just thought he was going to win.
That's fine because,
Yeah, I feel like that's fine.
Anyways, yeah, I put like a couple hundred. It wasn't that much. But I lost it. But I was happy to lose it. I was just like, why don't I hedge my emotions?
I mean, what was crazy is it was such a swing. Like, Como was leading at 66% or something.
Yeah.
And then day of election, it just reversed all of a sudden. Yeah, I was seeing screenshots of the New York Times billboard and I was like, that's so cool.
Did you guys look at people's reactions on X at all? I feel
Yeah.
did you have any that you thought were funny?
No, I mean, people are just crashing out on X.
Oh yeah, people were crashing out. Did you guys see Bill Ackman's tweet? It actually must have been 15 pages long if you put it in a Word document.
Really?
It was so long. Like, you don't understand.
What's the TLDR?
I awoke this morning gravely concerned about New York City. I thought, what has New York City become? That an avowed socialist. And then he goes on and then says socialism has no place in the economic capital of our country. And he had to crash out. And then David Friedberg also from All In also had to crash out. And he was just like, I hope that a couple cities and states in America do become socialist and then see how bad it is. And then the rest of the country. He was clearly the international examples weren't enough.
Yeah.
But I don't get why they all just confuse democratic socialists with a fully socialist country. But yeah, my favorite tweet was at Hassan the Hun, who said, white boys who say inshallah have carried Zohran to a comfortable victory.
That's actually so funny. You're the white boy that says inshallah.
I
That's your
know.
favorite thing to say.
I know, it's a relic of my Muslim act.
Well, isn't the whole thing that not only Republicans but also centralists and Democrats, most of the Democratic Party doesn't like to associate themselves with socialism, obviously because of the international examples of socialism and communism, and so they really hate when someone openly says they're socialist.
Well, it's socialism is the idea that the government runs things, and then capitalism is the idea that the free market runs things. And we currently live in a hybrid economy. But it's regardless, even Republicans preside over a country that's partially socialist in policies. They don't
we
get
just
rid
don't
of
label it that
libraries. They don't get, there's a
Yeah.
ton of socialist policies they've never advocated against. They might defund public education, but they don't advocate against public schools. They don't advocate against libraries. They don't advocate against communal roads. That's socialist. Us all I don't know. Should we go into the way that the campaign was run? Because I think Priya said, he was a huge underdog. So I feel he ran a very tight campaign, I feel in terms of the strategy.
There's a stat that in March, single digit percentage people actually knew about Mamdani. So
I saw that.
the turnaround he had in the last 3 months is kind of unprecedented.
Yeah, he talks about watching himself get to 1% in the polls.
I know,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember seeing that because he always referenced it, right? Taking it back to when both of them initially launched their campaigns for mayor, there was Cuomo who made his return to politics, and he literally put out this 17-minute YouTube video that to this day has 20,000 views, which like we have 1,000 views. So think about him getting
it only has
20,000 views. In comparison, Mamdani's, his had 1 million views in the first 48 hours, which is like insane.
Well, a lot of his campaigning was primarily run in social media, like TikToks, YouTube ads in different languages. But it was different. It was different than the way Kamala did it. It was a lot more professional. It was less Gen Z, less trendy, less like memey in a way. I think a big thing that I heard was that he would go and interview people in the Bronx of like, why did they vote for Trump? And a lot of people just had felt that they were not being representative, especially in New York City, for people who like wanted better access to public transportation, better housing, better minimum wage, because like at the federal state level we haven't raised minimum wage in a while. And so when he heard all of that, he basically ran his campaign on all of those policies and ideals, and posted a lot of these interviews.
Yeah, and I feel like he is really young too, so him running this type of campaign versus Kamala is super different, because like aside from the fact that he's charismatic and likable and all of those things and was very much like a man of the people, I feel like he also understands the trends and like what people our age want, because he's like 33 years old. And I was looking at like how much of New York, what the age demographic breakdown was, because I feel like everyone we know is young in New York, and obviously there's the subset of people that are older as well, but it said that 58% of registered voters are between 18 and 29.
And like the young voter turnout was like way higher than it is in previous years, because like the whole thing with Democrats is like they always win most of the young vote, but like young people don't go out to vote, which is ironic because you'd think that like young people would be the most motivated to vote because like they have to live through the future versus like old people don't. Like I've actually never understood that.
Well, it's because they're also not old enough to understand the impact of their vote too, right? They can't put it into perspective.
Like I guess maybe that's what it is, but like I feel like people that have like just gone through college or like have their first job like understand. I think he showed that like branding matters and it gets people excited, and I feel like we recently rebranded our podcast, if you guys noticed. And branding is not my strength. And I think you just notice like how many details there are, like what the hex code is, like what the font is. And we're obviously not the experts to do this, but like on TikTok and stuff, I've seen like marketing and branding experts like go over his campaign and like put his posters side by side with like Cuomo's and other candidates. And it's like he uses like way more interesting colors. His graphics are really good. Like he has the same like cinematic filter on every single one of his videos. He like tilts his head to the side. Like there's just all this analysis. And I feel like he kind of showed that like you can have an authentic, ethical brand, because a lot of the brands that, whether it's like in tech or in politics, that have been going viral have really depended on the shock factor. Like for example, like Cluely or like Trump, like
the rage baiting.
They're rage baiting, and like he's not, I guess he rage baited some people unintentionally, but like he's not trying to rage bait, you know? And not like making like, he's not like insulting people, like Trump will have like rude nicknames for people, and that obviously makes you like want to listen to someone more because it's funny.
Wait, side note, can we talk about that tweet that said all of Trump's potential nicknames for Mamdani?
Yeah.
Did you see that, Maya?
So
no. Wait,
funny.
listen to some of these. Do you have them?
I don't have them.
Oh my god.
I can't even do it because I'll butcher it. But this person was like brainstorming what Trump might call Mamdani.
It was like jihadi Mamdani.
Yeah, that was one of them.
Because Trump has all his nicknames.
For everyone.
Yeah.
The other thing I think about Mamdani that I want to talk about is that he was a lot more approachable and likable. Like he was on the streets, he was talking to people. He did his like walk on Manhattan from tip to tip. That's like 17 miles. That was a huge turning point in his campaign. And then you have Cuomo, who's like unapproachable, not really on the ground floor talking to citizens. And I think there's this like whole debate about how he like parked his car in front of some like city and in some like traffic lane, like totally legally, and he literally says, oh, it's okay, like I'll work it out with the NYPD. And the NYPD was like, no, you don't get a pass, like you're gonna get a ticket. This is fucking crazy, you're not above the law in any sort of way. He was coming out of like sexual harassment allegations and like moving past that, and so I think a lot of people just felt he was like above the law and like kind of untouchable in a way.
I feel like he didn't even just campaign like he was above the law, but he campaigned like he was above campaigning.
Like
it was
not
an auto
above
win.
campaigning. And like there was this tweet by @Kate Willett on Twitter, and she said, when I canvassed for Zohran a couple weeks ago in Bushwick, an old Puerto Rican guy answered the door. I tried to tell him about Zohran in broken Spanish. He saw my flyer and said, oh, that guy, he came here. And I like talked to him a couple days ago, and it's like, that's crazy. He's like canvassing so many doors himself that his like own canvassers are running into the same people. It was like over 1 million doors. I think like around 1.5 million knocked. And it's interesting because I was talking to one of my friends about it who was trying to decide between Cuomo and Mamdani in New York. And he was like, but don't you think this is like all performative? And I was like, I actually like don't think it's performative at all, because like there's a reason that you see one person doing that and the other person not. And if you like look at him historically, like at some point he participated in like a 15-day fast for like the taxi drivers of New York. He's like door knocked for all these other politicians historically. Yeah. And like it was interesting, like in one of the longer form podcasts, I think it was The Breakfast Club that I listened to, they were like, why don't you like delete your raps off of the internet? Why don't you try to like curate your image before running? And he was like, I'm like running for people that like also might have a rap on the internet, you know, like I'm like just another person. Like I'm not gonna act above like everyone that I'm trying to represent.
Yeah, the other thing is that all of those people that you're talking about that were canvassing were all volunteers, versus Cuomo's campaign literally had so much money put into it. The super PAC Fix the City raised roughly $25 million, which was like the most a mayoral campaign has ever seen.
His campaign was like so corporation funded. Like DoorDash, I think, was like the biggest contributor at $1 million. And it kind of makes sense because if you think about it, like they're incentivized to not, we'll get into this later, but they're incentivized to fund the candidate that's not trying to raise minimum wage, because that'll affect the like unit economics around their profitability. And then you also have a bunch of like real estate groups that don't want rent controls and price freezes, which Mamdani is like campaigning for. And so you really see like the corporations funding their interest in Cuomo's campaign. Like a lot of people talk about Cuomo just being like a Democrat, but like a red Democrat, if that makes sense.
And some of the other people were like Michael Bloomberg, Bill Ackman was like a huge donor as well. And all of them, basically from what it seems like, they're all just concerned about their taxes and they just don't want their taxes to be raised.
Yeah, I don't really know anyone that like actually likes Cuomo. Like he's just like a bad guy. Like during COVID, he literally said that like nursing homes should accept COVID positive patients, and then like a bunch of people died. And then when he calculated the deaths from like COVID in nursing homes, he like the numbers were way off, and they were like, wait, like these are way off. And he was like, oh yeah, if they got COVID in the nursing home and then died in a hospital, I didn't count that as a nursing home death because they technically didn't die in the nursing home. Yeah. And like, yeah, his like sexual assault allegations, it was like 11 women accused him, and then they looked.
It was 13.
Oh yeah, I think it is 13.
Yeah.
I think it's like 11 to 13 depending on where you look.
Yeah.
But they found the allegations to be true. Like they did a whole investigation. It wasn't even just like people said it.
Yeah.
And like who knows. It's also like past 10 allegations. Like it's really tough to think that you're the one telling the truth.
Yeah. Well, then this came out on the debate stage, which was another like turning point for Mamdani, because there was like an iconic scene. Cuomo was like, hey, well, how can you win? You have like no previous like positions that are of value to like justify you winning mayor. And then Mamdani is like, well, you've got sexual assault allegations, and like, do you even deserve to be on this stage?
And he like resigned in disgrace. It's like, how do you resign?
It was
in disgrace
really
and then
bad.
come back into politics? Like,
yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, the debate was insane. Honestly, the part that I thought was the most insane was when they asked people what country they'd visit, and every single person said Israel. Like it actually looked like you were watching a like debate for maybe like president. Like it made no sense. And then Mamdani was just like, oh, I would just stay in New York. And then they were like, so like you wouldn't go to Israel? And he was like, I just like talked to Jewish New Yorkers like in New York, like in like synagogues, in the subway. And they were like, so like you don't believe in Israel's right to exist? And it was like so strange. I was like, what am I watching?
Yeah, a lot of people tried to paint Mamdani as anti-Semitic, which is also crazy. And his whole thing was like, no, I just don't support like Israel's actions, but that doesn't mean I'm anti-Semitic. And so, Islamophobia was a big conversation in this mayor race. Like the Palestine conflict was a big conversation, which is honestly like not even relevant to specifically New York City. Before we get into like his actual platform, one last thing I want to talk about was ranked choice voting. So New York has this unique thing where they use ranked choice voting. You rank the candidates instead of just picking one candidate that you want to win. And what this prevents against is when people try to vote defensively. So like, let's say their top choice is polling 1% in the polls. They generally will not pick their top choice and they'll pick someone else. The way ranked choice voting works is that you can put your top pick as that pick, and then you can put all your other picks underneath. So it's basically saying like, if you think Mamdani isn't going to win, but he is your favorite, you can still put him first. And so then what we saw happen was that Nani and Lamdare then cross-endorsed each other, which was also really cool. But
yeah, it was cool, especially because he's like Jewish. I think ranked choice voting is interesting in the way that a lot of times people have a candidate that they like, but like it might not be like the most electable. Like people voted for like Jill Stein in the presidential election and then didn't vote for Biden at all. And then like all the Jill Stein votes were basically like wasted. I think we should do like the takeaways for Democrats from this election, and then we can move on into his actual policy positions.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of key takeaways for Democrats because at this point, I feel like there's a clear pattern in their candidates that people like, which is like Bernie, AOC, Mamdani, and they all put like economic issues front and center. And that's not to say that I don't think identity politics or social movements are like important, but I do think that it makes people like disengage when they feel like you're not talking about them.
Yeah.
I think there's a lesson for like the Democratic Party and the establishment in like how they go about trying to like put these candidates down that are actually like super electable and well liked, like Mamdani, because like Mamdani's pretty inspired by like Bernie Sanders' platform, who like in 2016 when he was running against Hillary in the primary, there was like all these leaked DNC emails where like they're giving Hillary the debate questions ahead of time. They were like coming up with the DNC, which is like supposed to be supporting both of them. It's like coming up with questions to ask him at like events that make him look bad.
Like they just want to go for the traditional candidate that'll like bring them all the money.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
And going back to the economic point, his entire campaign was run on like affordability instead of other issues. And I feel like at the end, it was basically saying that affordability was something voters cared about more than crime, which like has never happened before in New York. And it's like completely related to the way that he ran his campaign. And it shows that like people do really care about those things and the impact that he's had.
I mean, honestly, it's like in the last year, how much has crime impacted our day-to-day life versus affordability? So yeah, I feel like that is like one lesson for them in terms of like who's electable, who people like. I think there's a lesson in the branding where like they tried to do like marketing and branding well with Kamala, and I think there were like some wins, but like overall they didn't like get to the place like Trump is with his branding, whereas like I think Mamdani got a lot closer.
Yeah, like Kamala's ended up being like really cringe.
Yeah,
because it like felt like Gen Z interns were trying to run this like really inauthentic campaign.
I feel like it kind of gave the vibe of like you ask McKinsey consultants like how can a Democrat like appeal to Gen Z. And I think like actually the specific girls that like ran Kamala HQ and like Kamala social media like I think did a good job. But I think like they should have involved her in it more. Like was way more like these memes making fun of Trump, and I don't think you have to not post those, but you need like the core of your content to be like the person speaking.
I also think what I heard from a lot of people is that people couldn't really say what Kamala's core platform was, like what was the things that she was standing for beyond like identity politics, like you said earlier, of like of talking more about like the economic policies and the immigration policies. And so even though Kamala did talk about those things, her like social media platform didn't highlight that in the similar way that like Mamdani did with his platform. Like a lot of his like TikToks are just like freeze rent, like straight in your face.
2 words.
Again, it's like national stage versus NYC stage, but it seemed like given the flavor of the time, people care more about economic policy.
Mamdani literally jumped in the Atlantic Ocean and was like freeze rent, like I'm freezing in the ocean or something like that. It was like crazy.
Well, even if like I don't know how much you guys have heard like Bernie speak, but like I actually feel like when I hear Bernie speak, I'm kind of like, I don't need to hear him speak again because he just says the same things again and again.
Yeah.
But like maybe to the average person, that's like what works because they're only tuning in for like 1 in 20 speeches.
Yeah.
And it got to it's funny because this guy that I used to do high school debate with, like we went to different schools, but like sometimes would see him. He won like the New York City Zohran lookalike contest, and they had them give like speeches and stuff in the end, and he was like freeze, like, and then the audience is like run, and like he did like a back and forth with the audience, and the audience like knew Zohran's entire like 20-second pitch by heart, and it's like Kamala wouldn't have any equivalent. And Trump does, like he's like build though, and then everyone's like wall.
And that's powerful.
Yeah,
right?
I
Like that,
agree.
it's powerful. I mean, people, what we've learned with politics is people do not self-educate. They do not go and read the platforms. They do not try to dissect the economic policy behind those platforms and read a bunch of research papers like we're about to do right now, right? They just look at what's fed through them through social media and what gets views. And so if the only thing that gets views is gay rights, like, and a lot of people don't identify with that, they're going to move on.
Yeah. And I think like the last thing on this is Mamdani did a good job of like explaining those policy proposals and the substance through social media. Like he has his like halal cart video where he talks about like removing some of the permits needed for halal carts. It'll bring down the price. And it's actually a pretty substantive video.
Yeah.
And it's like talking about actual policies that could get passed.
Yeah. No, I agree, because I feel like I literally know more about Mamdani's platform than Trump or Kamala's when they were running, because like I feel like I'm not that involved in politics. Like I'll like read things here or there, and I literally knew everything that was going on in New York in a place that I can't vote, and it doesn't affect me at all, more than I knew what was going on during like the presidential campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
He did a
also
good
just
job.
saw a lot of New York influencers crashing out about the whole like free buses thing.
Really?
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, because they would like be like, oh my God, you don't understand. Like the bus girlies, like we're there because that's where we feel safe. Like now we're gonna have all these homeless people like threatening to kill us. Like that's why I don't use the subway. And I was like, girl, get off your high horse. Like it's fine.
Oh my
You'll be
God, I
fine.
didn't see any
I didn't
of
see that
these.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of that, and I was like, you're really gonna post that right now? Okay. Like,
Well, that gets into the points that we want to talk about. We wanted to go through the different points that he ran on and dive deeper into his platform. So the first one is free buses, like Maya was saying, where he basically proposed eliminating fares on New York buses to make transit more accessible, which is super valid. Like I feel like it makes sense that you want transit to be more accessible to everyone. And he said that it would specifically benefit low income New Yorkers and essential workers that basically could be funded by the state and encourage people to like use transit more.
And then there's like a ton of things he ran on, so I feel like transparently we went deeper on like some of the later ones, but like that was his bus policy. Then he has a universal childcare policy that he says will cost like $5 to $8 billion, and it's basically free childcare for children between 6 weeks to 5 years old. And De Blasio had this signature achievement of free pre-kindergarten, so like kindergarten for like 4-year-olds. And so I think like Mamdani wants to expand it to younger kids, and it is shown to be pretty effective both for the future of the kids and for like moms.
it allows a lot of lower income workers who don't have access to childcare to go and make more money, honestly. And it also is just better education for these children as well.
Yeah, Washington D.C. did like a similar thing in around like 2008, and they saw that moms, like employment among like moms of young kids went up 12%, which is honestly really high, I feel like, for a change in employment. And then this other study I saw by James Heckman, who is a Nobel Prize winning economist, said that you get 7 to 13% annual return on like each dollar spent on like children when you're talking about like childcare, which is basically because like they make more down the road, they are less likely to commit crime, and you also are less likely to have to spend money on them in the future through like a social safety net.
Yeah.
So it's like preventative.
Yeah. And these are the type of policies I personally like a lot because and when you invest in education and when you invest in these like longer term returns, like you're not going to see those returns in the lifespan of Mamdani's like whole term.
Well, you probably could see it in like the employment numbers. Like I agree you can't see it
agree.
in like kids and what might happen later on, but I feel like you can see the employment numbers and like who it's
That's
attributed to, like if it is women in a certain age group.
That's true. And then I think also the longer term effect is like the gender inequality wage gap closes a little bit here too.
Yeah, like the wage gap, every time it's studied, is like almost completely attributed to motherhood.
Yeah.
So his next big platform has to do with housing. And like we said, he wants to freeze rent, and he also wants to create 200,000 affordable units of housing in New York. And this is one where we did a little bit of a deeper dive in. It's a $100 billion project over 10 years ish. And in terms of the 200,000 units, and then the rent freeze, it seems like is something he wants for like a few years, but it would be like temporary.
Rent control is often criticized by economists because it can constrain the supply of affordable housing, but then also getting rid of it doesn't also increase the supply of affordable housing. So what I liked about Mamdani's platform is that he specifically called out that he wanted to make 200,000 more affordable units. because you need to do both at the same time to make sure that the effects of the rent control won't result in just like less housing being available across the market.
Yeah, and the scale of rent controlled housing in New York is huge. It's like a million apartments that are rent controlled, which is like about 50% is what they say of the apartments that are rent controlled.
And so basically he wants to freeze rent increases on already rent controlled apartments.
But what we see with rent control is that the probability that tenants remain at those addresses increases by 20%. And it's like unclear on if rent control practices actually benefit the renters in the end, because I mean the properties are just less upkeep because the landlords don't spend as much money on those properties, they don't make as much money, the housing supply goes down, and yeah
so basically like the flip side is in the short term it's really good for renters, obviously, because they don't have to pay any more than they're already paying,
like the half of renters that are covered by it.
Half of renters that are covered by it. But then the issue is for the landlords and the people that own these properties. That also means that they are not making more money while like inflation is still continuing to rise. You still have like the maintenance on all of these houses that you have to keep up. And so like what we've seen in the past is that rent controlled places end up needing a lot of work because people just like don't put in the effort of like maintaining it because they have no incentive to maintain it because they know people will stay, like Maya said, because people are super likely to stay where they are. And also like they're not making a profit. So you can't necessarily expect them to reinvest in it either. There was some study done that basically showed that more rent controlled houses get demolished over time because they're in like an irreparable state. Compared to like not rent controlled places.
You're also decreasing the supply of available housing in the city because like 50% of the houses in New York, people basically are not going to move out. Even less likely to move out now because like because then for the other 50% the prices go up because there's more competition for like that 50% of housing, which like Maya said is why Mamdani is suggesting 200,000 affordable units be built. And he also is like trying to make things more efficient. Like he's trying to fast track like building permits where it makes sense. He is trying to speed up like project approvals with the Department of Housing Preservation and Development and City Planning. And I think that his focus on efficiency, and it's kind of like bringing Doge to New York, is something that I've seen like people on the right and left praise him for. And it's actually funny because he gave this interview where he was like, I don't understand why Democrats have let Republicans co-opt or like basically just completely take ownership of this term efficiency. Because if you want a society with social safety nets and like as many dollars getting put into people's pockets as possible that are like on like that are less wealthy, basically, you would want efficiency. And I do think we got canceled for making the same point. Because that's literally what we were saying in the Doge episode where we were like, the idea of Doge is good. It's just like how they're going about it.
I guess what happens is landlords are looking at this. You're like, hey, I have to pay higher taxes and I can't raise my rent. How do I get a reasonable return? So then you have a lot of these downstream effects, right? And the better way to think about it is like, how do you just promote new buildings? So that's like looking at the zoning laws, because there's a lot of really nice neighborhoods like West Village where you can't build because people don't want you to build there because it's a really nice place, right? Or there's like a lot of permits. Like, for example, we see in California, you can't build above this story because you don't want to build something that's like not earthquake proof, or you want to build something super sustainable because California is super sustainable. But then as a result, you just don't have a lot of units being built. And so a lot of the times when you look at rent regulation, the easiest way to understand it is like put rent control. But the better way to go about rent regulation policy is actually just promoting new buildings, which I like that Mamdani's like calling this out in terms of the permits and stuff.
It's like what Daniel Leary's doing too. Like it sounds like very similar to making things more fast track, getting things done, changing zoning, like all of those things are kind of the same things that Daniel Leary's doing.
Yeah. And also just incentivizing development of affordable housing as well. But yeah, you can't run a platform on saying I'm going to change West Village. Like people are literally going to kill you for that. So like, so I get why he like phrased it the way he did. Yeah, phrased it the way he did. And I'm not like necessarily against it as long as like the rent control doesn't stay there for too long. Because actually, this is really funny. In Sweden, they kind of take it to a whole nother level where like basically all of Stockholm is completely rent controlled, and there's a black market where people will like pass rents back and forth, and they're 20% above market rate, and it's like a really bad practice because in the end it created like a really inefficient society. No one can get a home because you're like literally in line like by like for like 10 or 20 years. Like the lines to get a place to just rent in Sweden is really hard.
This is what Friedberg was talking about all along.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so it just made the problem worse. And I think Mamdani probably knows this. I think any politician in the US knows this. So like we're not going to try to swing all the way that way. But
yeah. Part of it is also like the feasibility of this actually happening, because all of these things he can't do alone in a vacuum. And especially since the project is supposed to cost $100 billion, like it would require approval from the governor and a bunch of other people, which who knows if that'll happen.
Basically, for the freezing rent, it seems like he has like a decent amount of control. Like he appoints a majority of the rent guidelines board, and they're the ones that decide it. And then it's more complicated for like building the housing units. And also like his plan involves borrowing $70 billion by issuing muni bonds. And it seems like sentiment is like okay to good on that, but like that money would also have to get raised, and then like you probably have to work with like a bunch of people on building 200,000 units.
Guess we'll see.
But the next area that we did a deeper dive into as well is grocery stores. So people have been freaking out about this because he talks about like a city-run grocery store and people are like, we're descending into socialism. I think it's a little bit funny because there's like a ton of government spending that's already going into the category of food.
Yeah. Like the SNAP program.
Yeah, there's a SNAP program, and then there's also just like straight up subsidies that the government gives to like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's to try to get them in like lower income neighborhoods. Otherwise, like those companies never have an incentive to like there's always another rich neighborhood you could build a Whole Foods in.
Yeah.
And the way that I see this conversation is like, I think it's kind of like a build versus buy conversation where it's like, should the government run, assuming everyone's goal is like people have access to fresh, affordable food, right? And I think that is everyone that's reasonable's goal. It's like, should the government run a grocery store which like has benefits of like they have a lot of control over where they build it, they have a lot of control over what's sold in it,
economies of scale, wholesale prices for the consumers, like they don't have to make a profit, like they can cut all of that out basically.
Yeah. And then the challenge is obviously like you have the operational burden of running a grocery store.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, it's like you could get like a Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or someone else to like build in that area. And then the benefit is like you've outsourced it. But the con is like you have not as much control over like what they're offering. Yeah, is what Mamdani said.
Because it's like you could give someone $10 in food stamps that would buy like whatever, like a dozen eggs, or that same dozen eggs would only cost the government $7. So why wouldn't you just go the government route? Because it'll be cheaper in the end.
Right. It's like
that's the pitch. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like this is another thing that's like really hard to execute on, because there's a bunch of other places that have tried to do it as well. And I know like Chicago was one of them. And I think they're still in like the super early stages of doing this, and it isn't proven anywhere as far as I know. But like Mamdani said, he only wants to do 5. It's not like some like huge large scale project. So
yeah, I'm also curious, like can anyone shop at these grocery stores, or only specific like low income families can do it?
I'm pretty sure anyone.
Yeah, it's anyone.
But they would place it in low income neighborhoods or something?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think the idea isn't that only low income people could shop there. I think it would be similar to like, I'm trying to think of, it's honestly similar to the bus. Like anyone can take the bus, but like the more money you have, the more likely you are to Uber. And it's like mainly poor people that might be like dependent on the bus with no alternative. But like,
yeah. And the entire point of doing this is because there like are food deserts that exist everywhere across the United States. And so he basically was like, we want to fill those gaps. But like another way to view it that I saw online was that you could also provide like more access to public transport, which is like obviously part of his platform as well. But it's like part of the reason that people can't go to these places is because they don't have access to get to these places.
Yeah, like they have like synergies. And I was looking into this because I was like, isn't New York like a pretty well connected city where like how much of like a food desert is there? And only 3% of New York City's residents actually live in a food desert, which I think makes sense because the definition of a food desert is probably like mainly looking at like a normal density area where like New York is way more dense. But then there's 35% of New Yorkers, which is like 3 million, that are considered to live somewhere where they have limited access to affordable fresh food. So I feel like the bus thing would help because those statistics together made me think that they're not like, they're kind of like slightly outside of the perimeter of where it would be accessible to them, and that public transit would help. I think the city grocery store honestly will be like a really interesting case study. Like I'd be curious to like revisit it in a year and like see if there were like these operational issues people have highlighted. Like I'd say the main one people have highlighted is like the profit margins on grocery stores are like 1 to 7%. So like it's not like the people that own grocery stores are necessarily trying to like price gouge the people that come to. It's not like they're like, we want to make like groceries like super expensive for the average person. It's just like a low margins business.
Well, I was gonna say a lot of delis in New York tend to be more expensive than your Whole Foods or Trader Joe's because they can't have economies of scale that like Trader Joe's or Whole Foods have. So like, can you really compete with a Trader Joe's type of pricing?
Well, you're artificially competing because you're not
even profiting. Yeah.
You're not profiting, and you're maybe even like taking a loss.
Yeah. The final thing that we wanted to cover was his policy of raising the minimum wage to $30 by 2030, and he would do this in step increments every single year over the next 5 years. This is because currently the minimum wage is at like $16?
Yeah, it's $16.50 in New York City.
Which is considered an unlivable wage. MIT research has suggested that a livable wage is actually anywhere between $32 to $40. So even $30 wouldn't even hit that.
Yeah. I was researching like the history of minimum wage laws in the US, and I found something pretty interesting, which was that our like original minimum wage law had no like forward looking component of how should this increase over time. So if you normalize, and this is about the federal minimum wage, not New York, but then it's played out in cities as well that have even higher cost of living. So if you normalize for inflation, the national minimum wage, it's like slightly downward, mostly stable. And if you look at like the UK, there's like a ton of other countries as well. I don't remember what they all were.
It's actually not even slightly downward because like in the 1970s, adjusted for inflation, minimum wage was closer to $15. So like it started as like $6 to $7 in today's pricing, went up to $15, and is now back to like $7.
Yeah,
on a federal level.
That makes sense. Yeah. So like Australia, France, UK, they all, instead of having politicians, so like if you look at our minimum wage, it's like every few years politicians will be like, it's gotten too low,
we need to increase it.
Come together and increase it by like 40%, which is like only a few dollars.
Yeah. And then it's this huge platform.
It's like
or like it's like a huge campaign that they have to run to go and do this, which it's not. It's not.
It's like you have to have political feasibility. Like businesses are like, oh, this is a shock to us because like you just increased it 40% out of nowhere. The same people are saying like, oh, like it's crazy to suggest $30 when we're at $16.50 right now, and it's like, it is kind of crazy to suggest 100% increase, but the reason why that needs to be suggested is because we're so behind. Like it's like such a broken system. But anyways, these other countries, the way they do it is they have an economic like group of people that are like economists mainly, like an economic council, I guess. And they have like basically a math equation that makes their minimum wage grow with like inflation, the price of living. And so when you adjust their minimum wage, it's like a slight upward trajectory over time adjusted. Ours is slightly downward. And when you look at specific cities in the US, it's even worse because the cost of living has just increased so much. And like 50% of New Yorkers say they're like going to get priced out of the city.
Oh, I was gonna say the other thing is you see a smoother line too, because you don't see these huge like step changes, which is also like very detrimental to the businesses as well.
Yeah, it's more business friendly if it's like also predictable.
So that people know. Yeah. No, that's actually what I was gonna ask about. Like, have any presidents ever talked about changing that before or like ran on that? I'm just curious.
I don't know any national candidate that's talked about it, but I know that a ton of cities have talked about it.
Okay.
Like Seattle and San Francisco, I'm pretty sure both have already implemented that, and Mamdani specifically, because I found that before I realized Mamdani says that, and then I was reading through stuff, and like he basically says we should do that too.
Well, he says starting 2031, it'll be based on either the labor productivity or the inflation rate. And he'll also have a council that does it gradually.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
So he's just trying to like raise it to the like where it should be and then start maintaining it there.
Yeah, which makes sense because like I totally understand the business perspective of like it just shocking your system basically when you have to start paying like way more than you did before. Like we saw this in LA recently where they approved a $25 immediate minimum wage for hotel and airport workers. And I think like a lot of it was because they need to start building the infrastructure for the Olympics in 2028. And so there were a bunch of these hotels that were going to partner with the Olympics. And because of like all the work required and the fact that they would have to pay $25 to these hotel workers, they just like pulled out because they were like, this doesn't financially make sense for us to do. And they like cited specifically that the wage hike made it uneconomical for them to do it. So you see the cons of doing these like shock raises as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But most studies that study like increasing minimum wage, obviously responsibly, like gradually over a period of time, find that like a lot of the arguments that like, oh, what are most of the arguments against it? It's like, oh, the price just gets passed on to the consumer, or like people lose their jobs and their jobs are just automated away. Like those don't actually happen in practice. And the reason why I think that is because like most of these jobs can't even be easily automated. It's like someone like the person that serves you at a cafe. And then second of all, like maybe there's a slight increase in prices to the consumer, but when you increase the minimum wage, it's like the bottom, like whatever, 20% of earners in your society that are seeing an increase in their purchasing power, but they already have like really low purchasing power. So that increase isn't going to like somehow totally affect like someone that's more at the 50th percentile.
I also saw that it disproportionately affects women and minority communities, because those are the people that tend to be on the lowest of low wage workers, and so the biggest net effect is to them, and that also helps with like gender inequality, race inequality.
That makes sense. I also just think that like if you're logically trying to build a good society where like people aren't committing crimes, people aren't homeless, like the very baseline table stakes is that if someone has a job, they can afford to live, like basic necessities like water, food, housing, like getting to and from work. Like I feel like that just intuitively is reasonable to me.
Yeah.
And it's ironic to me that like people on the right are not more pro increasing the minimum wage, because I don't understand how you advocate against a social safety net and against government handouts and then also don't want people to be able to like work and survive.
I mean, there's a direct correlation actually. One study showed that minimum wage increase of 50 cents reduced the probability that a person returned to prison within a year by 2.8%.
Yeah,
like you see
makes sense.
Yeah, you see like crime rates go down. And then you also, I mean, if you're doing that, then you also have to pay less for the jails.
Yeah.
You have to pay less for the social benefits, like or like food stamps, all that stuff. But yeah, there is one flip side to all this conversation, and they did a study where when they raised the minimum wage in California, what happened is that businesses strategically adjust their scheduling practices to reduce the number of workers eligible for benefits. So it's like, I will not schedule you more than 20 hours because if I do, I have to pay XYZ benefits. And so then you can kind of recoup some of the costs that you incur from raising the wages. So I think it says the average store in California recouped approximately 27.5% of the increase in its wage costs through savings. A bunch of people had less consistent work schedules, less consistent hours, and like more like partial jobs. And that had a pretty negative impact. And so $1 increase in the minimum wage added to an average net loss of at least $1,500 per year per employee. So it did have a negative effect if you didn't have all these like caveats, basically.
Yeah, and in the end of the study, they basically just concluded that when you're implementing minimum wage laws, you have to think about like the second, third order of consequences, and then like also pass regulations like in those areas, for those areas of like who gets benefits, like the predictability and scheduling that businesses owe their hourly employees and other areas.
Mamdani basically has an entire financial plan laid out for all of the things that we talked about. Mm-hmm. And a large portion of this is actually going to be by increasing taxes for people who make more than $1 million by, I think, 2%. So it's like let's say you make $1 million and $100,000, like that $100,000 that you make on top of $1 million will now be taxed at an extra 2%. And this makes,
you can make $5 billion from it.
Yeah, and actually it makes sense because there's a lot of studies that show that like the top income tax bracket the taxes for that bracket have gone down over time, and they haven't been paying as much as they've used to. And that has also led to the income wage gap inequality. And so I'm always pro more taxation, but yeah.
Yeah, and he wants to also
Are you?
Well, I mean, like sure, if I make $1 million one day, that would negatively affect me, but like,
Yeah, which like you will. So like, why would you want that?
well, because it's like good for everyone else.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
Wait, if
tall.
I made $1 million, I would not give a fuck about paying $20,000 more.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. It's also like the platform. A lot of the platform benefits everyone.
Well, okay. I don't know if I actually want to say this on the pod, but I'm just going to say it and we can cut it out if we want to. But it's like, if I'm making $1 million, I'm clearly making $1 million through like some startup that's like VC backed or whatever. And I'm doing some net negative on society. I'd like to pay my taxes and give back some
anyone that makes $1
positive
million
effect.
is probably doing like a net
negative on
in some
society.
way.
Well, yeah,
yeah.
that's like, I feel like that's like the point.
Yeah.
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 It's like,
And
okay,
then
I'll
he's
give you.
also matching the corporate tax rate to New Jersey's, which is like 11% and
Yeah.
change instead of 7%.
Yeah.
So that's like $5 billion, and then there's $5 billion from like taxing
Yeah.
people that make over $1 million.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so that wraps up our story on Mamdani. It was quite a little bit more political than we normally get, but
Quite a little bit more.
Us after getting political every week for like the last.
yeah, that's true.
This one was like straight political.
This one was
no
straight
tech.
policy.
Yeah.
There was,
I
like,
feel like we
those.
try to like do a little tech spin usually.
Well, we did an economic spin
I
for sure.
tried. I said build versus buy.
Yeah. Well, I always like going over economic policy because it's super relevant. But yeah, moving on to Tesla robotaxis.
On to
Elon
Elon.
Musk.
Elon himself.
Covering
always
Zohran
gets a
Mamdani and Elon Musk and as one episode is really funny.
I mean, Elon always gets a feature in our episodes.
I know. It's because he has like 75 companies, so you have to cover one of them. And if you don't, then you cover Trump, and then you still cover him anyways.
True. So basically, Tesla launched robotaxis in Austin last week, like Maya said, and there was a fleet of 10 to 20 Model Ys that were priced at $420 for the ride.
Very funny.
And yeah, I guess this has been a long time coming. I wanted to like quickly go into the backstory. Basically, in 2016, he had a master plan where he said that Tesla owners should be able to add their cars to a shared fleet and have it generate income while you sleep. And then in 2019, he said that Tesla would have 1 million robotaxis on the road by 2020, which it's 2025 and there's 10. So clearly that didn't work out.
There's 10.
And then in 2020, he said they were very close to level 5 autonomy. Basically, self-driving is on the scale of like level 1 to 5, and they're currently at level 2, so also nowhere near level 5. In 2024, he said there would be a robotaxi debut in August, and anyway, 5 years later, we have finally made it to the actual debut. And yeah, this is pretty important for Tesla.
And
Yeah.
it's 10 to 20 Model Ys in a geofenced area with a remote human supervision.
Yes, it was very much a minor launch. But basically, it is very important for Tesla. They have like a $1.1 trillion market cap. And a lot of that market cap is like not from their core car business. It's from pricing in these moonshot ideas. One of them is the robotaxis. There's like other ideas as well, like the humanoids, which we'll get into a tiny bit at the end. But one RBC Capital Markets analyst wrote in a report last week that robotaxis alone account for 60% of his estimated valuation of the company, which I thought was insane. So there's a lot riding on this, no pun intended.
And like Tesla's also not been doing great in the EV race recently. Like sales numbers for Q2 come out this week, but at least in Q1 they were down a lot, and the predictions for Q2 are 366,000, which in comparison to last year it was 444. So they're down like 100,000.
Yeah.
Aren't their sales
in
dropping
sales.
for like the first time in a decade?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's pretty
Do you
bad.
guys think that it's like because of his association with Trump?
Yeah, I do think
I
partially.
low-key think partially, because like the protesters outside the Tesla store in SF are there every day. Like I didn't realize.
You think it's that big of a deal? Like
Because I think it's like net new people who would buy Teslas
Yeah.
now second guess whether or not they should buy it because Elon is so associated with Trump. Like I
And
would
there's,
think
like, two-
about it.
Yeah, I would think about it too. There's like two categories of people, right? There's the people that are like so liberal, hate Trump and Elon so much that they're just like not going to do it. And I agree. I don't think that's a huge category of people. But then I think there's a much bigger category of people that are like, oh, like Elon and Tesla is like not cool. They're also standing for bad things. Like if I'm going to give my money to someone, let me see if there's a comparable EV. And if all else is equal, like I just won't pick that.
Yeah.
And there are more comparable EVs on the market now than there were like 10 years ago.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I do think it matters. Yeah, but the funniest quote I saw about this robotaxi launch was people calling it a robotaxi infant that requires constant supervision to stop it injuring others. And I was like, that's so funny because people kept referring to it as an infant. And I was like, no, but like it is.
But people also just forget that like Waymo was in testing phase in Austin for like 2 to 3 years before they even came to San Francisco. Even Cruise, for example, they were all in their testing phases before they even released a beta program that anyone could sign up for at least 3 years. So it's like
Maya was their numero uno.
It really was. No, I completely agree. And Tesla is like super early in their testing phase right now.
Yeah.
I think the problem is how Elon
just talks about it
and frames it, because like the way he presents this is
like it's
here's
gonna happen.
The solution. Yeah, like this is like done deal.
But it's like every other autonomous vehicle that has tried to crack this has not been able to, or like has had very, very long testing rollouts. Like even Zooks, like we barely see them in SF.
I think that part is totally fair. But I feel like all this stuff about like the safety incidents, like they're breaking out of nowhere, they're on the wrong side of the road, like they're dropping passengers off in the middle of a busy intersection. Like I have heard of incidents with like other companies, but I feel like I'm hearing about a disproportionate number of incidents with Teslas, and it's coming from 10 to 20 cars.
Yeah, and I think part of the issue with that is like if this had happened 2 years ago, I think people would have forgiven it way more, because like you did hear about Cruise running into these same incidents. You heard about like all of these different cars trying things, but it's like Waymo's pretty good. Like we all ride in it and we're really comfortable riding it. They've rolled out to multiple cities. And so I think Tesla is playing this game of catch up, but Elon also doesn't like to look bad.
Wait, I was on that note.
Yeah.
I went on X and I was trying to find videos of like the robotaxis doing badly, and I could only find people glazing robotaxis. So then I had to go on Google to find them.
Reddit has them.
Yeah, because I don't know if there's any like filtering going on X,
you
but
think he's removing them?
I don't
totally would.
I could see that because everyone's like, yep, look at my car ride in a robotaxi, like nothing happened. Obviously, like that's what you want. You want nothing to happen. You want it to be boring, right? And it's like there's like literally so many posts of it going perfectly well, but then as soon as you move off of X into any other platform, it's like, oh my god, front seat manual trigger of a in-lane stop trying to avoid being backed into a delivery truck.
This was definitely cause for concern because the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration launched an investigation and is asking them for more information after hearing everything that happened.
Yeah, and starting September 1st, Governor Greg Abbott has signed these new rules into law that require autonomous vehicle operators in Texas to operate a state permit and meet strict operational standards. And basically it's like things like prove that they're abiding by traffic laws, have onboarding recording devices, make sure they're registered in Texas, and if they find someone to not be following that, you might be taken off the road.
Yeah. So the bigger story with this is that like Texas is like the last place that Tesla can like test their cars in without someone in the car. So because they're a level 2 autonomous vehicle car, they actually have to have someone always watching it, right? So right now they can have someone remote, but they don't have to have anyone in the passenger seat. But then like once Texas passes this law, I'm pretty sure Tesla has to have someone in the passenger seat, which is gonna be so fucking weird. And then it's just an Uber driver at that
They
point.
better get to L4 fast.
So they like, yeah. So essentially,
Like right now, like they have someone in the car, even if they technically could not.
Not always. Like they have someone remotely always monitoring, but not always in the car itself. But yeah, like basically all robotaxis will have someone in the car by September 1st.
Well, that's coming up.
No, I genuinely think this was like a Hail Mary of like, we
Yeah.
just have to put something out there. Like, I think what happened is like Elon came back to Tesla and was like, what the fuck, guys, let's just get something out there and start moving. Like, I think he's just trying to put fuel behind the fire, like put some fire on the company and get people more motivated to move faster.
Yeah, so getting into the technology and the difference, because Tesla self-driving is very, very different than anything else that we see on the market, whether it's like Waymo, Cruise, like anything else. So basically Tesla fully relies on Tesla Vision, which is 8 external cameras. So they fully rely on cameras that provide a 360-degree view. And then on top of that, they have like a neural network processing all of this information. And so the way that they approach it is very much from like a software perspective. And they believe that they can use AI to process real-time video the same way that humans do. And so they're basically betting on the fact that like AI can essentially just like replace a human in how it drives, versus Waymo uses lidar and radar, and they use sensors as well. And so they basically have like a ton of redundancy because they are also using neural nets to like process all of this information in different components. But on top of that, they also have all of these like sensors and technology where they can pull in a bunch of information. And so if one thing doesn't work, they can like rely on another thing.
It's also way easier to then build their algorithms for rain, fog, and snow because like lidar and radar are not as much affected as like normal camera images.
Yeah.
So that's like another reason why like Waymo's at level 4 basically, is because it can operate in more weather conditions
And
too.
even things like shadows or like road marking, like there's just like a lot more errors because like Waymo does a lot more mapping of their roads that their cars are going to take beforehand, whereas like Tesla's more reliant on like what the camera sees in the moment. So then there's less of like a plan B.
Yeah, I mean it's still a bet on like whether or not they can do it without lidar. I mean there was like a small admission I think a while ago from Elon at some conference that he might want to use lidar, but it doesn't seem like they're using it just yet. But yeah.
And like the reason why people would want to go down the camera and like vision approach versus the lidar approach is because it's much cheaper. Like cameras cost between $100 to $200 per car versus lidar and radar cost over $10,000 per car. And so if you actually want this to be a scalable technology, you do either need to decrease the price of lidar technology or figure out how to make it work with cameras. I think like someone ran the numbers on Twitter and saw that like per operating mile, the cost for a Tesla was 28 cents versus for Waymo it was like $1.21, which is a huge difference.
Yeah, but it wasn't. I think we did this in the Waymo episode, but we had said that like let's say like the cost of the equipment, and I wish I had my notes up, but like let's say the cost of the equipment stayed the same, but then they just retrofitted cheaper cars, like because like Jaguar was specifically the thing that was really expensive. Then they would be able to get to profitability if they like structure their schedules well, and they also have like really high utilization rates, which also always like takes a ton of time to get to. Like Waymo still has a path to profitability in like 10 years ish. And like I still think that's like a better shot than like not just like not having technology that works.
But this is talking about OPEX and you're talking about CAPEX, right? Because wouldn't the cost of the car go into the CAPEX or would it go into the OPEX?
I thought CAPEX wise like a Tesla is way cheaper to build than a Waymo. Wasn't that?
I'm saying like Waymo's operating costs seem to be more expensive, even excluding their CapEx costs, where like the Jaguar is more expensive than the Tesla. You're saying like Waymo has a path to profitability, but both things can be true. Waymo can have a way to become profitable, and it can still be true that Tesla has cheaper OPEX, which is like operating costs per mile because their technology is cheaper.
Yeah, but I'm saying I'm saying in that world though, I'd still rather bet on Waymo because they actually have technology that works.
Oh yeah, we're all saying the same thing.
What I was gonna say about their technology is like Waymo's actually trying to move towards what Tesla's doing. So they've been putting out like a bunch of research papers, and this is like actually a really big debate because a lot of people think that like what Tesla's doing is actually the right approach, and that is like the future of self-driving, is that it is scalable, it is these cameras, like you don't need this like large overhead.
But they're like ahead of their time.
Well, it's like that kind of gets into like, not to glaze Elon, but it's like he kind of thought of EVs and like thought it would be a big thing before anyone else did. Yeah. And so it's like similar to that in the way of like maybe it is just like super forward thinking, because now there were basically studies that came out that Waymo is experimenting with an end-to-end multimodal model for autonomous driving, because basically right now Tesla uses like a single neural network to process all the information, which includes like planning and execution basically. And Waymo uses separate neural nets for those things that like talk to each other. And so Waymo's trying to build a neural net in the same way that Tesla has one that they can use like end to end. And they're using like Gemini to help them build this. So like they are also seeing whether this is something that's possible. It's just like in the status quo, the technology is not good enough to like rely but only on that.
But I guess I would still bet on Waymo.
Yeah, because they did things in the right order.
I agree with that.
Yeah, like
the order of which they're doing things.
Because like in the end, it seems like they, in order to create like the best possible self-driving car, it seems like they both have to do what the other person's doing.
Yeah.
But Waymo's created like a much more functional model because they did things in the right order.
Totally.
Yeah, like
So then it's like, was Elon forward thinking? Because
like Waymo
I
can
guess
Waymo can both try to solve the like camera like the camera problem that Tesla's trying to solve, and also try to solve the operational problem of rolling out into all of these cities. And then but if Tesla is just stuck on the camera problem,
they can't roll out.
They can't roll out.
Doing
Yeah,
250,000 rides per week.
Yeah,
It's insane.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't know like how heavy the first mover advantage will be, but like Tesla's riding app, from like what people have said, like you can't edit your pickup location, like it's like shit. And like they did only roll out like 10 to 20, and like I'm sure it's not impossible to create an app, but like at this point Waymo has partnerships with Uber, like Tesla's facing a brand issue, like it just seems like an uphill battle.
Totally.
But it's also like Elon, so
And it's Tesla.
anything can change.
I guess like their one unique angle is they're saying that like long term people's personal Teslas will be like what makes up the fleet, which if true solves like part of the distribution problem.
Not if sales are declining.
Because like for the first time ever, they had a Tesla go from the factory to someone's house, like
Oh my
with
God, yeah, on Friday.
Yeah. And so like in theory, like maybe one day their fleet just like wakes up and like starts
crazy.
moving around and they don't need to like deliver these cars to any, like that is the plan, right? Like it's like one day they'll just like wake up, like you could see a graph of Tesla, right, where it's like really low, and then when they like
Figure
are
it
able
out.
to they just like hit a maximum velocity super quick.
Well, that's what all the Elon bros are like betting on.
Yeah, because they have these robotaxis planted as like sleeper cells in garages all over the bay. Like one day your Tesla's just gonna.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens.
I know we wanted to cover like Elon's recent controversy. We've already done it a bit,
Yeah.
but you know what's so funny? When we were content planning for this, Maya was like, I don't know, but like I feel like maybe like he fired someone or like something, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then he did. You were
Oh,
right.
was it? Oh, really?
Yeah,
I never
because
followed up on
no,
it.
He did. He outs, like he's shaking up Tesla's leadership. He outs a key executive. His name is Omid Afshar.
No
And he
way.
was a person overseeing Tesla ops in North America and Europe.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew
He got
it.
pissed.
I because I had said
Mine
like,
doesn't even need to research.
I was like, my hunch is that he's just gonna change. Go because he's known for putting the right people in the right places.
Yeah.
Like he's known for hiring and like putting a rock star team together. So my whole thing was like, oh, when I saw him leave Doge and go back to Tesla, I was like, he's gonna shift the team for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know the exact date of it, but yeah, he did do that.
Yeah, and like we said at the beginning, like this is a huge bet for them. I feel like the only other thing that might be bigger for them is like their humanoids and like robotics. Earlier in the year, Elon said that Optimus, which is like their Tesla humanoid project, will be more valuable than everything else Tesla does combined. And it's basically being trained with like very similar technology as full self-driving. So I feel like honestly, it's like bigger than full self-driving itself because it's this broader category of like what they call embodied AI. It's basically like this AI that you can put into like any type of body, whether that's like a car or a robot. And that's like Tesla's big bet.
It's like Grok basically. And it all like Optimus uses neural networks as well. And so it's basically has like vision, which allows it to detect objects. And the idea is that you can like, you don't need a code. You can like use your voice to program it because it can like see and like understand its surroundings. So you could be like, Optimus, like go wash my dishes. And I feel like that's probably like 5-ish years away. But Musk said that he wants like 5,000 Optimus robots to be created by the end of this year.
Okay, so price
Recently.
in 5 years to that if we're going by the self-driving car guideline.
maybe we can like clip this in 2030 when we're still doing this podcast.
Oh my god.
That's the first
We'll
time
have our own studio by then.
Oh, I hope so. God.
But the one thing that I think is cool about Optimus is that Optimus's first customer is going to be Tesla because they have like all the factories that they can use Optimus in, which I just hadn't thought about before, but totally makes sense. So maybe they can do some of their reliability and safety testing in the private eye. So that when it goes into the public eye, it's not like Optimus choked my wife out when she asked it to do dishes.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen Hannika's examples?
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say, have you seen that that movie Companion? It's just like another humanoid type of movie.
Yeah, I can't tell them apart. There's like her companion.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly what happened.
You know what I have? like been really deep in is like the AI companion subreddit where like all these people have their boyfriends.
Yeah.
It's actually like really sad.
Apparently, the top usage of AI right now is therapy and companionship.
Yeah. I saw that.
Crazy.
I actually saw that. We were talking about this at work, and like apparently someone was like, yeah, like this guy's wife found out he was like cheating on her. But
Yeah,
it's like,
I saw
can
that.
you cheat on
With AI?
can you cheat on your wife with AI?
Wait, I
like,
think you can.
no, yeah, like emotionally for sure.
Well, I was actually thinking about it because I was like, maybe I should try some AI therapy because it's like completely free. Like I'll just,
No, I mean, I feel like I've used it for a therapy use case before, but not like.
Oh, really?
No,
You have?
yeah, like I feel like I've been like, oh, here's a situation.
Oh, I've never. I
Oh,
don't
wait,
even
I feel like
think
I've
to
asked
ask
it
that.
so many
Yeah,
times.
I've never either.
You know what it reminds me? Like when I was like young, did you ever take those like, does he like me quiz?
Yeah,
I would take like those every single day. Like I would come
I
home.
could see that.
I would come home. Like it was like in fourth or fifth grade. I'd come home and I would like answer all these questions, and then it would be like, no, he doesn't like you.
Okay. Well, this has been super fun, guys.
Where we have dinner plans.
Got to get going. Bye.
Bye.